Francesco Farioli's tactics are highly impressive, but not only that, he is currently one of the youngest coaches in the top 5 leagues at just the age of 34 and is gaining popularity as his Nice side are currently sat second in Ligue 1 and went his first 10 games unbeaten at Nice. They are currently boasting the best defence in the league with 13 clean sheets in 21 games. But wait! Things get a lot more interesting. The young coach is also a former goalkeeper coach, that might make sense tactically later on, of one of football's current favourite coaches, Roberto De Zerbi, who hired him through a tactical analysis that Farioli wrote online. They started working together after a year and a half focusing on football 24 hours a day and sometimes working on a computer to 2 AM. Those were the good times, he said. But we're going to break down how things have got even better for Farioli since then, focusing on his in-possession principles and looking at that mean defence, not to forget the overachieving football manager tactic. So, we've learned a little about the Italian. Seems like a promising time for the Italian coaches actually. Farioli, De Zerbi and of course Thiago Motta, who we looked at in our last video. Their tactics are far from catenaccio. Nice's build-up play is one of the reasons Farioli is catching the attention of football fans in and outside of Ligue 1. It's distinctive. In the low build-up from the goalkeeper, we see some De Zerbi similarities, but not with the shape, more so with what they do with the ball. Bait the press. Nice will set up in a 2-3-2-3 formation with their build-up, a system that allows the goalkeeper to move forward in between the two central defenders. The goalkeeper will play it to either of the central defenders, both central defenders and the holding midfielder will make it seem like it's a good idea to press them, then bam! Nice all of a sudden find that free man to progress and evade the press, getting the number 8s involved deep in the early build-up. The use of inverted fullbacks or fullbacks making runs inside helps piece the puzzle together and make the build-up fluid. With a central defender on the ball, that inside fullback run drags his marker, which opens a direct passing lane to either a number 8 or the ball side winger. The fullbacks are used smartly. They'll know when to stay deep to help lure the press. It forces the defending winger to press, and with a Nice winger pinning a fullback, it leaves space for a central midfielder to roam to, becoming a free man. And the fullbacks will also know when to invert to add more numbers into midfield. Nice love taking advantage of the free man. The free man is simply a player who is unmarked and has space and time to advance the ball up the field. With a central defender holding onto possession and looking to bait the press, once the first line of defence looks to engage, this is a trigger for the ball side 8 to drop and receive. That's how Nice will typically build up, but Farioli is a smart coach. Opposition teams will have their weaknesses, just like PSG. Against Paris Saint-Germain, Nice didn't always take the short build-up approach and instead took advantage of a weakness. They once again baited PSG to press, but this time only to play more direct passes into the attackers. With the PSG forwards and midfielders pushing up the press, this left a space in front of the back line for Nice's forwards to collect. If you have been enjoying the content recently, then this will be a perfect time to tell you that you can join the Patreon to help support the channel. It would be, of course, hugely appreciated, and you can join a man like Mark Mooney and Sukver Sangera and join us in some tactical talks. You can see the tactics that we are working on before they are released on YouTube. So think about it, and I'll see you there. Let's talk more tactics. Rotating and interchanging are both important to the attacking system and effective in losing markers, but so are their line-breaking passes. Farioli's side will look to control the game in De Zerbi style, have the centre-back step on the ball, but then will suddenly change the speed and break out line-breaking passes in the right moments, working the ball now into the attacking 5 as the two number 8s look to join the attacking trio. Creating gaps in between the channels is exactly what Farioli's team looks to do in order to help themselves progress into the final stages of an attack. Nice mostly keep their 2-3-2-3 shape about them, or 2-3-5 when the 8s advance, and it serves them well. There's an importance and emphasis in the wider areas. When central midfielders make their electric runs making underlaps, attacking the space between the fullback and centre-back, they look to work the ball into the box from the byline where they can cut the ball back or hit it across the goal. This is all further helped fueled by those narrow fullbacks that we mentioned earlier, who initially open that passing lane for the winger to be 1v1 against the opposition's fullback, or hold up play for the underlapping runs before flooding the box for a crossing opportunity. Jeremy Boga in particular is a great carrier of the ball and is extremely strong in 1v1 situations, completed just under 3 take-ons per 90. Needless to say, is the highest at Nice. Though Nice at the moment don't score a whole load of goals, Boga has been incredibly effective in creating actions for Nice to score goals. And with the likes of Boga in the side, this helps Nice be very direct on the counter when they do win the ball and look to seek counter-attacking opportunities. Off the ball, they often use a mid-block and work hard on being difficult to break down, which often results in these counter-attacks where the first pass is usually played forward and the attackers make bursting runs forward, not allowing the opposition's defence to settle. So you cannot mention this Farioli side without giving the off-the-ball work a mention. Already spoke on how they use a mid-block, doing this by dropping into a 4-1-4-1 shape and looking to force play wide, which would then be their trigger to press more intensely. But also intriguing, in certain games, you would see that defensive midfielder drop into the defence line, making a 5-4-1, increasing the difficulty to break down as it ensures the central area has coverage. But they can also press high to prevent the opposition from playing out, with Nice looking to go man for man marking. Nice have conceded the fewest so far, having the most clean sheets, getting one in 62% of their 21 games so far, and are currently sitting second. For context, Nice have never qualified for the UEFA Champions League group stages, so Farioli's side are currently doing a very good job. But things can always improve, and in Nice's case, this would be in front of goal. They may have only conceded 14 goals, but they have only scored 22, and have the players in their ranks to improve their goals per game. Farioli has only been in charge since the summer, but has got Nice buying into his principles, as players such as Mofi and the experienced Dante have gone on to mention how much they love his coaching methods. So that was the Francesco Farioli tactical analysis all wrapped up. Now I think it's time to have a look at that Football Manager tactic, Overachieving, and we was in a mental title race with PSG, which was on my Twitter as well, so make sure you come and join me on Twitter as I was updating the Twitter during this title race. But now let's have a look at that Football Manager tactic and have a look at the results. So in Ligue 1 with Nice, we did manage to finish second, of course only behind PSG, which, I mean, they're just going to win this league every single time, aren't they? We did win 27 games out of the 34, losing 4 of those games, 3 of them away from home, and yeah, a heavy 5-2 loss at home to PSG in the middle of a title race. I'm still heartbroken about it, to be honest. Now, Nice are a possession side in real life. They do like to control the game, but in Football Manager, we did only manage to get 52%. We could have gotten more, and especially if we were operating in a high press. What I did notice a lot of the times in the mid-block, when the opposition did have a bit of momentum, we were happy to sort of just sit in our mid-block and allow the opposition just waiting for our moments to pick the ball and go on a counter-attack. But defensively, very strong, very solid. As you can see, 18 clean sheets, which is the joint most in Ligue 1. When looking at the shots against as well, we are ranked the 3rd best with that. Most shots for, we do come in second, so we were good going forward, or we were creating some shot actions going forward, and defensively, we were also very strong. Looking at the expected goals against as well, 2nd best, only 2nd to PSG. I did like how the goals were shared around between the front line as well. Laborde with 23 goals, Mofi with 15 goals, Diop with 10 goals, and Jeremy Boga with 10 goals as well. I do like the creativity from the wingers, as they both got double figures for assists, and Thuram also double figures for assists. But I'm guessing now it's time to look at that tactic. So, as usual, different variations. We got 4 this time. The normal 4-3-3, 1 when you are playing away, and then 1 when you are away to the big sides. In my case, it was more so the PSG, Monaco's, Lyon, I guess. Anyone that was sort of predicted to finish in and around or above us. And then lastly, we do have a high press version for you guys to be more friendly, I guess, on the Football Manager match engine. I didn't actually use this. I did test it to see if it actually worked before sharing it to you, but in the actual save the test, I didn't use the high press. I didn't feel there was need to, and it was sort of fun trying to watch this team operate in the mid block, which hilariously sometimes I mean, it did go wrong, especially against PSG. So this is the famous game I'm talking about, in the middle of a title race, as we can see here. I'm literally still heartbroken about this, still heartbroken. In the middle of a title race, and defensively, we were solid all season, and then we just had to go and concede 5 to PSG. Admittedly though, they did batter us. They did batter us. But for the tactics for the home, the main version, fairly wide attacking width, positive mentality, play out from the back and pass the ball into the space. Always looking for space for that shorter passing and slightly higher tempo. Let's try and operate with a higher tempo. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go back to front. Just like that, there's going to be a lot of patient play still. In the final third, work the ball into the box because I just found there was a lot of long shots with this tactic. In transition, counter press and counter. Now, in modern football, you will sort of see this everywhere. Not every single tactic is going to have it, of course. Actually, my Arsenal one that I'm working on, the 4-2-3-1 against Liverpool, doesn't have both activated. So that could be a fairly interesting tactic to look at next as well. Out of possession, here we are, the mid block, but keeping it compact as possible. So a much higher defensive line with a mid block, making sure the lines in between are at minimal. Trigger press much more often, prevent the short goalkeeper distribution and step up more. Now this, you have to micromanage this. So in early parts of the season, it was fine. But then as you get to December, January, February, I did notice that knocking it back helped the tactic a lot. You become a lot more solid as some fatigue starts to creep in. For the away version, fairly similar, slightly higher now this time with the passing directness. And when you are away against the big sides, we've dropped the mentality completely to balance, and you're still there with that standard passing directness. So for the player roles, we do have a sweeper keeper trying to get in between those two central defenders. I mean, it can happen. In the defense line, we have 2 central defenders rather than ball playing defenders, because I do want to try and get that De Zerbi style, just step on the ball, be completely patient. With a ball playing defender, he may look to carry the ball forward or play a more risky pass. Though we do have take more risk activated, with a ball playing defender, it's going to come a lot more natural. And yeah, we have two central defenders. The left back is a full back, taking more risk, cutting inside, shooting less and sitting more narrow. This just means that we don't have to have 2 inverted wing backs. The wing back use at Nice is very smart. I wouldn't necessarily say they're both inverted wing backs. They do have various roles, so I try to mix and match. We have 1 inverted wing back and we have 1 full back. Defensive midfielder on defend, just holding his position. We do have marked specific position, and that is the striker, to try and get that 5-4-1 shape I mentioned in the analysis, which, let's be honest, rarely happens. We do have a box-to-box midfielder, the Thuram role, taking more risk, dribbling more, getting further forward, all that pizzazz. And then his midfield partner is a central midfielder, kind of more so responsibility is staying in that midfield, but can get further forward, of course, with get further forward. On the left, winger, taking fewer risks actually, tackling harder. On the right-hand side, we've got the inside forward on attack, staying wider, tackling harder. Lastly, up top, we've got the pressing forward, moving into channels, but he is very key, very important in dropping deep and linking up play. For the away version, it's the exact same player roles, but for the away version, when you are against the big teams, we do have a ball-winning midfielder now who can just get into those wider areas to close down the opposition, especially if they're looking to create overloads in those wider areas. But unfortunately, that wraps up today's video. Thank you for this recommendation as well. This was requested heavily in the YouTube comments, and I'm also looking to do Arsenal next as well. Now, Arsenal's not going to be like a main tactical analysis video. It's going to be a very good football manager tactic, and we're just going to look at what Arteta changed in that Liverpool game. It's just mainly focused on that Liverpool game, as that's what the tactical tweak was with the double pivot, not the 2 double pivot, Jorginho and Declan Rice. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you go and check out the Patreon as well if you can afford to, and like the video. God bless you, stay safe, God bless. Mwah.